Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Rob here from the DAE. Today we're going to be working on a Fusion 360 project, which I'll get into in a moment. But I just want to let you know that this is pre-recorded. It is not live. I wasn't able to get on at 2 p.m. today, so I'm recording this a couple hours earlier. But no big deal. I'm going to go through it as if it was live, and hopefully you'll stick with me while we work on a project. Earlier this week, I had done a basic introduction to Fusion 360. Today I'm going to apply that to a project that I had previously done in Tinkercad. So about a week ago in Tinkercad, I put together this elephant-looking thing, which actually is a headphone clamp. This will clamp onto a monitor stand that I have, and the idea is a set of headphones can hang on this little spindle here, and it accidentally turned out to look like an elephant, which is pretty cool. What I'm going to attempt to make today, and I probably won't finish it today, is I'm going to make something similar, except on one side, we're going to have a hinge, so the piece will basically rotate open like this on a hinge. And the other side, I'm going to have a nut that fits in just like this, but also we'll design a knob, so you'll be able to screw it and unscrew it, screw it in and unscrew it with a knob versus having to get tools out. So we're going to make an attempt on that. I probably will not finish it today, but we're going to do our best. So why don't we jump right in? So just a quick recap. Fusion 360 is Autodesk's CAD program. It's the next step up from Tinkercad. Autodesk also makes Tinkercad. And you can actually use your same account that you use with Tinkercad with Fusion 360. Fusion 360 is free to hobbyists and students, which is great. If you're using it for commercial purposes, you do have to pay for it, but it's free for hobbyists and students, which is awesome. Highly recommend you check it out if you're interested in getting into some CAD design. I also had made, like I mentioned, a little brief tutorial on how to get started with it. And before we get going, I say this all the time, I'm kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. I don't have any formal training as an engineer. I taught myself how to use CAD design using online tutorials and just giving myself projects like the one I'm going to work on today. So I'm probably going to fumble around with this a little bit, but that's how we learn. We make mistakes and we learn from them. I'm going to jump right in and start modeling this, and we'll get started now. So I just want to point out, I want the basic design of this to be kind of the same, this kind of center ring with the little flanges on the outside. The biggest difference is we're going to put a hinge on one side, and then we'll design a knob on the other side. But essentially, it's going to be the same thing. And I had just measured with a set of calipers. This is a set of calipers. We can use this to measure the diameter or the internal diameter of things. Very, very useful tool. Got this on Amazon for, I don't know, maybe 18 bucks. Highly recommend it. But at any rate, I measured the diameter of our of the cylinder that my monitor clamp goes to, and it's approximately 36 millimeters. So I think we'll use 37. I'm going to go up by 1 just to give it a little bit more tolerance, because as we know, 3D printers aren't precise, and we're going to use that as the center point. Now, as I mentioned previously, Fusion 360 works with two-dimensional sketches that are extruded into 3D space. So we need to think a little bit about how we are going to design our clamp as a two-dimensional object and then extrude it. And I have some thoughts. I'm not entirely sure, but let me just get a top-down view of this. Hold on one sec. There we go. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to sketch these pieces. And then basically we'll have a two-dimensional sketch of this clamp. And then basically extrude it upward into 3D space. I think that's what we'll do. What I'll probably do also is I'll probably draw a circle for reference, and that way I can kind of draw around the circle, and then we'll just delete the circle sketch. It's probably unnecessary for me to do that, but I think that's what I'd like to do just to be safe. The other thing we could also do is I could draw a rectangle here, and then just figure out what the distance I need between the two is, and draw a rectangle here, and then add the arcs later on. I'm not quite sure. I think I'm going to draw the circle for reference. So let's jump in and give this a try. I may totally mess this up and have to start over again, but like I said, that's how we learn. So I'm going to start with a center diameter circle, and I'm going to make this exactly 36 millimeters in diameter. So here's our 36 millimeter circle, okay? We can zoom in a bit. And we have our perfect diameter of 36, right? I can change that if I want for any reason, but that's fine. So 36 millimeters is the way to go. So these squares on my grid are 1 millimeter. So I think I may actually start my sketch at that point and make the arc, and then we'll kind of figure out how long we want the little flanges on the sides to be. If I swap back over here, we'll figure out how long we want these flanges to be after the fact. I'm just going to grab my caliper and kind of think about this a little bit. I think I'm going to be using an M6 nut, which I think we'll look up the dimensions of that shortly, but I think something like 12 millimeters. So I think maybe we'll probably make the flanges 30 to 35 millimeters on either side. That's about this big. That space right there. That's not too bad. It'll give us more than enough space to fit the nuts in there. It's probably too big. I may actually be able to go all the way down to 25. So let's go with 25. Okay, let's get into this. So let me think here. Yeah, let's get into this. So I think what I'll do is I'll start by making an arc from this around to this. And we're going to do that with the arc tool. And what I'm going to do is use a 3-point arc. And what's great about that is it lets me set my first point and my second point, and then basically pull this down. And now I've got myself an arc that's exactly 1 millimeter larger than my inner circle here. So let me undo that. I'll show you what that looks like. So I get my arc tool, 3-point arc. So I know that this space between these two marks on my grid is 1 millimeter. So I want this to be 1 millimeter larger. So I place one starting point and the other. And we know for a fact that this is 1 millimeter because my diameter of that inner circle is 36 millimeters. And if we add 1 millimeter to either side, that's 2 additional millimeters. Now we're at 38 millimeters. So we know the distance between these 2 points of the arc are correct. And then we basically pull this down and just line it up with the grid. And now I've got this line, which is great. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the line tool, and we're going to make a line. We're going to make this line, I think I had said 25 millimeters. Right, now we have a line 25 millimeters. And then we'll make this, now we have to figure out what we want the thickness of this to be. And I think on my previous model, I think I had made it, I think I'd like to make it 10. If you look at 5, that's quite small. If we make it 10 millimeters, that's a bit better. I think that's going to be a little more substantial. So we'll make it 10 millimeters. So click on this point. I'm going to come down 10, right? And then that seems quite large, but let's go with it. I think that's fine, okay? And then what we're going to need to do, what I'm going to do in this case is, let's see here. So if I come to here, that's like 27 and change millimeters. I think what we're going to do is make this 17. Okay. Again, I'm feeling my way through this. I might be totally off here. That might not be too... Let's make that a different measurement. Let's make it... That's 27. Let's make it like 22. I think that's good. 22. Okay, now I'm going to do the same on the other side. I'm sure there's a better way to do this, but this is the way I'm deciding to do it today. I'm sticking with it. So we'll get our 10 millimeters down. My mouse is being funny today, so 10 millimeters down. That's locked in place. Great. And then I came in 22. Great. Okay, so now... 10 millimeters. Yeah, I guess it's got to be 10. The thickness of those walls looks thicker than I thought, but if I'm measuring this correctly, I think that's what it's got to be. I could probably make it smaller. Let's make it smaller. Let's make it 5. Whoa! Yeah, let's make it 5. So I can come over here and just change my dimensions like that. I think that looks a wee bit better. And so now what I've got is I've got 2 more points that I can use to draw a 3-point arc. And I know I want the wall thickness to be 5 millimeters, so I could just use the squares here to figure out... hold on, I'm just going to reset my view so I'm looking at it this way. So I know I want 5 millimeters from the bottom, so I can basically use that 3-point arc to set my 2 starting points, and then come down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now that looks a wee bit thick, so I'm going to come back in a little bit. I think that looks pretty solid. And there is the basis of my shape. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this sketch. That looks pretty awesome. That's the basis of the shape, right? That's going to be basically this. So we've got our 2-dimensional sketch. Now what I'm going to do is extrude this upwards and figure out how tall I want this to be. So let's go back here and take a quick look at what height this object is. So we made this 40 millimeters. So that's going to look like this. 40 millimeters. I think we can probably get away with making this smaller. I'm going to make it 30. And if I change my mind, one of the beautiful things about Fusion 360 is I can always go back and change the sketch, and it should update my... it should update my 3D form. It looks like this bit of it is a little thinner than the fins, but I'm actually okay with that because the fins are going to have all the pressure on them from the nut and bolt going through them. So I'm actually okay with that. I'm going to leave that. Cool. So let's quickly save this. I'm going to call this Headphone. Oh, I have my caps lock on. Headphone clamp. And it's saved. Okay, very good. Alright. Oh, did my... Uh-oh. My Fusion 360 might have just crashed. Let's give it a second. Hopefully I didn't lose my work. Hey, very good. So I think I have a lot going on my computer right now, so it got a little angry at me. But it has our version 1 saved, and we're good to go. So let's extrude this upwards. Right-click on the face, press pull, and we're going to make this... I think I had said 30 millimeters, and we now have a clamp. Right? Very nice. Very nice. Okay. So that's beautiful. I should be naming my sketches, but I only have one, and I think I'm okay with it. We'll leave it for the time being. Very nice. Very nice. I think that's going to work beautifully. So I think what I'm going to do is duplicate this body, and then we'll basically rotate it 180 degrees and line it up so we basically have both sides of the clamp ready to go. So let's select the body, and I can right-click on it, and I can copy, and I should be able to just paste it. Maybe not. Let's see. There might be a duplicate function. Let's see. Move copy. So let's create a copy, and we are going to... Oh, that works better. So I basically selected the shape, I made a copy of it, and now when I move it, it should be an exact copy. Beautiful. So we'll move it. We know that that's lined up because I only moved it along that one axis, and now we'll rotate it 180 degrees. Now it's not aligned anymore, so we're going to have to line it up. And one thing that's nice is I can use the grid. See, I've got this line going this direction, and then the one space. I've got the line going this direction and one space. And just to be sure of that, let's get them nice and flush. And we should be beautifully aligned. That's awesome. So I think I'm going to back this off and give it 1 millimeter of tolerance, as we should. And I've got now both sides of the clamp. If we switch back to Tinkercad, I'm starting to look like I'm moving in the right direction, which is great. I think my music stopped. Let's get that looping. Oh, starting back over. Very good. Okay. Gotta have music while you're working. So let's hop back over here, and I think we're good to go. So now we've got these two pieces together and ready. Now I guess what I'd like to do is decide which is the front and which is the back. One of them is going to need a hole going through it with a space for the M6 nut that we're going to use, which is going to sit flush in the side. And one of them is going to be just have a hole in it with a flat side. So we'll have a knob that screws in and presses against it. So I'm just going to arbitrarily decide that this is the side we're going to go with. So let's do the M6 hole first, and then we'll do the nut. So I'm going to quickly switch over here. M6 nut dimensions. All right. M6 nut dimensions. So let's see what we've got. M6 nut is across the flats. So what that would mean is across the flat side here to there, we're looking at 10 millimeters. And then the depth of it is about 5.2 millimeters. So that's good. We can work with that. Very good. So let's use this side over here. I don't remember which side I had decided, but let's just decide on this one. So what we're going to do is create a sketch on that face. And now we need to find the center point and basically draw a polygon. And I think we're going to do center point in the midpoint of one edge and a vertex. So basically, we have two different ways to draw these polygons. Three different ways, actually. One is circumscribed, one is inscribed, and one is edge. And what's nice about Fusion 360, it gives you these little pop-ups. So circumscribed is going to create a polygon using the center point and the midpoint of one edge. I think that will be fine. Now, we have to figure out where the center point of this is, because I'd really like this to be lined up, right? I would like it to be, it looks like that's our center point, because you can see how it's giving me those dotted lines as the guide. So that's great. So now we need to make this 5, because if we, hold on, I'm just going to get rid of this for a second. The reason why we need to make that 5 is we're doing, oh, hold on, I need the box to pop up. Polygon, circumscribed. So it's using the center point and the midpoint of one edge. So it's effectively making it like the diameter, right? And if we go back to our guide here, it's the nut from the flat edges. So it's basically, we're measuring from the center point to the point of one flat edge. And if we look at this image here, I'm just going to bring this up really quickly, right? If we look at this image here, the way we're making this polygon is here's the center point, here's the flat point of one edge, and that's equidistant to the other side. So it's essentially like the radius of a circle. So if we go back to Fusion and we grab our polygon, and we use the circumscribed polygon, we're going to find our midpoint. I don't remember how we found that before. How did we find the midpoint before it? So there's our midpoint. And there's our midpoint. And there we go. Perfect. So we do that. We're going to come straight across, make it 5 millimeters, and it's a nut, so it's 6-sided. And we have ourselves a polygon that's nicely centered and lined up, which is perfect. Now, the thickness of this polygon we had decided was, let's go back here, a depth of 5.2. And if you recall, we made the thickness of this 5. So I don't think it's going to be able to sit totally flush. And I should have known the depth of that nut before I made this, because if I press pull this and push it in -5, it goes... Does that go completely through? It does. That goes completely through. And we're going to need to leave a backing on there. So I think what we're going to need to do is press pull this. Let's leave 2 millimeters. So we'll make it -3. So the nut is going to be protruding out from this a small amount, which is not the greatest, but it's fine. We'll deal with it. Not a huge issue. So there's the spot for our nut. See, that's one of the things when you're making these kinds of projects. You really should have all your dimensions for your hardware and everything before you get started. I have a really bad habit of just jumping headfirst into a project and then realizing that I didn't make everything the right thickness. Now, arguably, I could go back to the sketch and make the thickness of this thicker, but I think this is actually going to be fine, and for the sake of time, I think we can roll with it. Okay. So now we need to make a hole through the center of this for the bolt on the other side to fit through, because the bolt's going to go through this direction. So let's go back to Google here and let's get the M6 bolt dimensions. So we need to know the bolt dimensions of an M6 screw. So obviously, I always forget this, but because it's M6, that's metric 6. That means that the center diameter is has a nominal outer diameter of 6 millimeters. So 6 millimeters, great. I think what we'll do is we'll make it 6.5. Although if we make it 6 exactly, it's going to be snug, and that way when you turn the bolt, the threads of the bolt are actually going to bite into the plastic, and that's not actually a bad thing. It's almost like it's going to tap the plastic slightly, so I think we're going to make it totally to scale and do it 6 millimeters. So we're going to make a sketch right over here, and we are going to zoom in, and we're going to make a midpoint circle, and we need to grab this and this. Here's the midpoint of that. Here's the midpoint of that. We're going to come out and make a 6 millimeter circle, and there we go. Perfect. 6 millimeters running through an M6 nut. Very good. So now I can right click on that face, press pull, and I could basically just push this straight through, and it should push a hole through both sides. Now, I have to double check 6 millimeter diameter. Let's go back for a second here. So an M6 width across the flats is 10. Let's get this inner diameter figured out here. Let's figure this out. M6, 10 across the flats, 5 millimeter depth. We got that right. Okay. It looked like that hole was larger than it needed to be, but that's what this says. According to our dimensions, we're going to go with it. So there we go. Got the hole going through. Got a nice nut that will sit flush with that. Beautiful. So that's good. Now comes the tricky part, which is we need to figure out how the heck we're going to make a hinge on this side. Right? We need to make a hinge. And when it comes to hinges, especially with 3D printing, you can build the hinge. So a hinge has a series of components. Let's see if I have something with a hinge in it. So this is a selfie stick, right? So the way that this hinge works is there's a center piece here. That's on the base. And then the outer piece has these two flanges that fit together. And then there's essentially a cylinder going through it that this piece can rotate around. This one is stepped, so it kind of locks into position. We don't really care about that, but we're going to need to make the two outer pieces on one side of our shape and the inner piece on the other side of our shape. And then we're going to need to make a cylinder to go through it. Now, I've made hinges where I've 3D printed the cylinder. A 3D printed cylinder doesn't always come out that nice, so I think I'm probably going to use a piece of metal rod or even like a bolt, a smaller dimension bolt, like an M3 bolt or an M2 bolt that I might just cut the head off, and then we can basically put that in and either screw it in or hot glue it or something, but we'll make that decision when we get there. What we need to figure out now is how this hinge mechanism is going to work, and honestly, I have no idea. I'm going to have to figure this out here. But basically, we know that one side is going to need to have pieces on the outside, and one side is going to need to have pieces in the middle that fit together in a line so a cylinder can fit down the center, okay? So I think what I'm probably going to do is make a sketch of a cylinder that's basically about here. And I'm going to... Well, maybe that's not the best way to do this. I don't really know. The other thing I can do is I can have a little piece of material coming off this direction, and then a cylinder, and repeat that on the top, and then do that in the midpoint of the other one. Well, let me save this. I'm going to save the version, I'm going to call it pre-hinge, because that way I know when I go back, I will have some version control. So if I, know I screw up this hinge really badly, I'll basically be able to step back to the pre-hinge phase of this. So I don't know. Let's see what happens. So let's go ahead and make a sketch. Okay, let's see. Let's go here. Whoop. My view's all wacky. Okay, so I think I'm going to make I think I'm going to have a piece of material coming out to here, maybe 2 millimeters, and then kind of arc back. And then basically from that point, I'll put a cylinder. The other thing I think... Let's see what happens. Let's try it. So we're going to have a piece that comes out. Let's have it come out 3 millimeters. Okay. And then I think from here I'm going to do a 2-point arc. I'll do a 3-point arc, actually. From here to here. And have a little piece coming out like that. And then we will finish this by enclosing the face. So now I've got this piece here. Okay? And then I think what I would like to do is have... I need it to be at the midpoint between the two, I think. Alright, let's see what happens here. Let me undo this for a sec. Okay, let's see what happens here. Alright, very good. So circle, we're going to do a midpoint circle about here. And let's make it 3 millimeters. And then we'll make the inner diameter of that 2 millimeters. Okay? Okay, so now I have this, which I can press pull up. And I'm going to have that come up 10 millimeters. Cool. Alright. The one problem with this... No, this should work. This should work. This should work. Alright, this should work. Okay. So what I need to do now is the same exact thing on the top. Come down 10, and then we'll basically... Oh, this is totally going to work, I think. I'm confident at this point. Alright, so we're going to make a sketch up here, and we're going to actually do the same exact thing. So I hope I remember the dimensions I did. So we're going to make our line. I think we came out 3? Shoot, I don't know. I think I came out 3. Let's go back. So this... 3. See how it says line sketch 3 millimeters? Okay. Okay. Great. Oh, lost myself there. Okay. Alright. Let's zoom out a little bit so I can see where the heck I'm looking at. Alright. Let's repeat that same process. We're basically going to make the same exact shape on the top. So it was 3, and then I made the arc. Right? So it was... Let's see if I can figure this out. It was 3 millimeters out. Right? And then we made our 3-point arc, which went from here to here. Not the midpoint. I think it was here. Right, and then it was to there? No, that's not right. Oh, maybe it is. Maybe that's right. Oh, we'll find out because I'm going to extrude this downward. Okay, then we went in and we had our center point circle that we're going to make here and make it a diameter of 3. Right? Cool. Alright, then we're going to basically select all this. A finished sketch. Select all this. Oops. Oh, man, I'm zoomed so far in. It's all... Okay. And I brought that down 10. Nope. Negative 10. Alright. So, that should be Exactly the same. It looks good. It looks good. Okay, this might work. This might work. So let's go back here and zoom out a little bit. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to do the same exact thing. Oh, man. I wonder how we're going to do it on this one. I may need to push this shape out a little bit. And then basically, okay, here's what we're going to do. So I'm going to select this body, and I'm going to move it out a couple millimeters. Okay? Perfect. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat that process on the bottom. I'm going to pull it up 20 millimeters and then push the bottom of it up 10. It's probably a better way to do this, but I think that's what I'm going to go with. So let's do this again. We're going to do the same exact process, although I think I want to move this body so it's on. I want to move it 1 millimeter this way, just so it's on the line. Okay. All right. Let's see how this shakes out. Okay, very good. So we are having a new sketch. Let's zoom in. I'm going to do the same exact process again, as long as I remember the dimensions, which should be line from this edge out 3, right? Then arc. From here. Oh, one more time. To, I think, here. And then to here. Okay. So there's our arc. Okay. Then, I think we came 1 millimeter in. And made a circle. That was 3 millimeters in length. Okay, I think that's it. Oh. Messed one thing up. I didn't complete the shape down here I needed to make. A line. From this point to this point. To complete. Okay, cool. Now we should be good. So now I can pull this up 20, right? And then if I go underneath, I can grab that sketch, which is, I guess, just this. And I can basically now pull this -10. Oh, nope. It actually has to be 10. And now we've basically taken that away. So, assuming I modeled this side of the hinge correctly, I think we are good to go. Oh, something happened to my music again. Let's switch that up. Let's do this. All right, open. There we go. Now we got some tunes. Okay, so this should probably work. This is like a synth cover of the Final Countdown. That's funny. The one thing is I made this all totally zero tolerance, so I think I want to push the top down a millimeter or a half a millimeter, and then push the bottom up a half a millimeter. So we've got a little bit of, let's make it 19.5, right? And then I can basically push the bottom up. So we'll do 9.5? Nope. 10.5. So what I'm doing is I'm basically giving a half a millimeter on each side. So let's see if these fit together properly, and if they do, I think we've made ourselves a pretty nice hinge. So let's grab body number 2, which is this, and we're gonna move that now flush with the 1 millimeter of space. There it is. I think that's gonna work. What do we think? It looks like this cylinder might be slightly off. Let's go to the top. It looks like it's slightly off. No, actually, I think it's okay. I think it's gonna work. It does look like it's slightly off, but that might be That might be just our perspective. So here's what we're going to do now. Is we're going to put a hole in the midpoint of this and just push it straight down. And that should make a hole through everything evenly. So what we need to do now is find the midpoint of this, which looks like it's right there. We're going to do a midpoint circle of 2 millimeter diameter. And then basically push this. And I'm just going to do negative 100, so it just pushes all the way down. And we have ourselves a hinge. That looks perfectly aligned if we look down the top. Frankly, I don't care if it's a little bit off on the outside. I may not have just measured everything perfectly. Oh, yeah. Something's definitely off. Interestingly enough, the top and the middle are good. It's this bottom one that's messed up. See that? The bottom one's messed up. So I need to step back. And I think I need to edit the other sketch. So let's finish the sketch here. I think what I'm going to do is move that back out, right? And then what I think I need to do is edit this sketch because I did something wrong here. Okay, yeah, I think I need to edit this sketch. So that would be... Let's see. That would be this one, right? Let me just hide the body for a second. So it would be this one. Let's edit that sketch. I don't know why it takes me to this wacky view. What is going on here? Let's zoom out so we can see everything. Huh. My view is being super annoying right now. There we go. Okay. That was 3 millimeters, right? Oh, look at this circle. Okay. So, this circle... Can I delete this? Let's see. Delete. Ah! See, I did not do this correctly. Center diameter circle to here. Why is this not snapping to the grid? That's really weird. There we go. And it's 3. I had it in the wrong position. I had the center point like farther down. Okay. And now if I finish the sketch and I turn this body back on, I think it should be better. So, that should work better. Let's try that and see what happens. Let's see. Oh, I could just do it this way. Body number 2, move. And we're going to move this in nice and flush. Let's just get a little closer. I'll move that back 1 millimeter. There we go. There's our 1 millimeter of tolerance. That should be dead on. All right, so now let's make that sketch and put this circle in the midpoint of this again, right? We have our midpoint right there, which is beautiful. Center point circle. Make a 2 millimeter circle here. We're going to pull that downwards. Negative 100, just so it pushes all the way through. And now we are in business. Oh, what a hinge. What a hinge. I'm so impressed with myself. I'm sorry. So I'm going to save this. Post hinge. Whoop, and I have caps lock on again. Post hinge. All right. Okay. So we are in business here. So essentially what's going to happen is there's going to be a metal piece that goes through these hinges here. And the clamp will be able to open in like so, right? And then we have our M6 nut on that side. All we need to do now is make a knob. So we're going to use an M6 bolt that has a hex head, right? So it's going to almost look like it's a nut on the top, but then it's going to be a bolt. I'm going to have that sit flush into a knob, which I'm going to design shortly. And then we're going to basically be able to screw this in by hand. Love it. Absolutely love it. So I'm so impressed that that hinge worked out. I really didn't know what was going to happen. And I got to be honest, it's not bad looking. Whew. Oh, man, I feel good about that. Best sense of accomplishment, right? I did not know that I was going to be capable of doing that because, you know, frankly, I have limited skill with this. But you know what? I didn't know unless I tried, so I'm very pleased. So we're going to make a new sketch, and we're going to start our knob. So what we're going to do, create a new sketch, and I'm going to make my knob just over here to the side. And we're going to start with a circle, and we know that our M6 nut, our M6 bolt, what did we decide that the threading was on that? M6 bolt dimensions. I think we said it was 6 millimeters. I don't know why I have a mental block against this. It's so funny. Yeah, 6 millimeters. So I think I'd like to have 2 millimeters on either all around on this. So if that's 6, we're going to make this 2. We're going to basically have 2 on each side. We're going to make it 10 millimeters, right? And what I'm basically doing is making this, the knob is going to have sort of the grabby part and then a cylinder inside that's going to make it look pretty. So I think we'll make the cylinder 10 millimeters in height. Love it. Good. So there's the center cylinder of our knob. Very nice. Then what we're going to do is we're going to make a sketch on top of this, and then we're going to use a center point circle. And now we need the total diameter of the knob. So we said it was 10. I think the whole knob, I think we said our flanges were 25, so we can make the whole knob 20. Let's make it 20. There we go. Very good. And then I think we'll have that come up 10. So basically, whoa. There we go. So I'm going to press pull and have that come up 10. Ah, that looks way too much. 10 is way too much. Let's make it come up. Well, no, I guess 10. All right, well, let's see what it looks like. So you can see we have the makings of a knob, right? 10 looks kind of high, but let's see what happens. I'm going to roll with it here. Okay, now, what we're going to do now is we're going to make a hexagonal hole in the top so the hex head of our M6 bolt can fit flush. So we'll go ahead and sketch on top. Polygon. We'll do the circumscribed polygon from the center point outward, and I think we said it was 5 millimeters. There we go. And let's just double check our work there. Let's go back. Says 5.2. I'm just going to make it 5. It should work. Okay. And then what we will do is finish that sketch, and let's push this downwards. -5. And now we have our... Oh, wait a minute. Thickness across flats was 10, so we did 5. That's correctly. And the thickness is 5. So we pushed that down 5. Beautiful. So now our hex bolt should fit totally flush with that. Now what we need to do on the bottom is make a 6 millimeter hole that goes through the whole thing like we did before. We'll go ahead and make a sketch on the bottom face here. Make our center point circle. We'll make a 6 millimeter in diameter length. That's now in there, and all we need to do is press pull this -100. And now we have the makings of a knob. All right, now the one thing that I want to do to this knob, this would be fine. I'd be very happy with using this. We could give it like a knurled texture on the outside if we wanted to, but I think I want to make this look a little prettier. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a sketch on the top, and I'm going to attempt to use... Nope, that's not what we want. I think we're going to do a circular pattern. Center point, objects. Okay, let's start with this, and I'm going to basically make a circle. Let's make it 5 millimeters. Okay. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to use the circular pattern. So this will be the object. The center point is going to be this. And then we can crank this up 5. Let's see if we can fit 6. All right. We'll take it. So basically what I've done is by using the circular pattern tool, I'm able to draw one shape and then select the center point, and it makes a nice circular pattern all the way around. Let's go with this and see how it works. I think we're okay. And now we have all these shapes. Excellent. So now what we're going to do is select all these inner portions and press pull them downward so that they go all the way through our shape. All right, so now we've got these little handles, which is pretty nice. And the only thing is they're going to have all these really sharp edges, so I think what we should do is we should select all these edges and try to, use the fillet tool to curve them out so we have a nice curve. Let's select these all. I think I'm going to select the top edge too. Yeah, we'll select the top edge too. And maybe the intersection. Select all these edges. And then what we can do, I got one more, is we'll come over here to modify. We'll fill it. And I don't know. Let's do 1. I like that. I think that looks great. What if we did 1.5? Even better. I'm going with it. We got ourselves a little knob. And I left the bottom edges flat because you're not frequently going to grab those. But I would say that that's a pretty nice looking little knob. I've done it with 4 pieces before. Now we've got 6, but I love it. We'll save this, and we're going to save this with knob. And that way we know that this is the version that has a knob in it. I think, if we are not mistaken, that this is finished. I think this is done. Oh, no, it's not. What am I talking about? It's not done. I need to put the hook part. Jeez. All right, so now we need to have the hook coming off of the edge of this to actually hang the headphones on. So before we do that, I'll just quickly measure my headphones and see what the dimension of the top bit is here. So we're looking about... It's about 50 millimeters even. So, okay, so we know we need our hook to be a little bit larger than 50 millimeters. So, cool. So, I think what I'll probably do is just have, like, a hook coming out and then a piece kind of angled upwards. In my, where's my elephant one? So, I had this little ball on the end of this, right? What I think I'm going to do is have something that's kind of... Maybe I'll have it, like, come out, notch down, and notch up. I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go. So... I think I'm going to put it on the nut side, so that way there's no knob sticking out when we're hanging our headphones. So what that's going to mean is I need to make a sketch on this face. Can I do that? Good question. Maybe what I'll do is I will make the hook and then just bring it over and attach it. That's maybe what we'll do. Okay, very good. So... what I'll do then is I'll just sketch on the bottom here. We'll just make a sketch on the bottom here. So new sketch. All right. And we're going to make it over here. So 50 millimeters. Let's go ahead and start with a... Well, let's use the line tool. That sounds good. So we're going to go 25 this direction. Right? Oh, no, that's... No, that's not the case. That we need 50 millimeters this direction. Width-wise... we can make it, I don't know, about 20 millimeters. Looks pretty good. So we got our sketch tool. So 20, right? And then basically what we'll do is make it a height of... I don't know. 10 millimeters? 5 millimeters? The headphones aren't very heavy. I bet we can make it 5 millimeters. Actually, I'm going to make it 10. I'm going to make it 10 because I have an idea. So 10. All right. I could have done this with a rectangle, but it's fine. I'm doing it with individual lines. Oh, that ain't right. So it's 10 by 20. Actually, let's take a step back and we'll do it. We'll do it as a center point rectangle. And basically do 10 by 20. Great. And then I'm going to extrude it to push-pull this up. We said we need 50, so let's make it 70. Okay, great. I think what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to sketch on the side. We'll go basically 10 millimeters down. Then maybe we'll sketch like a nice long arc. Or maybe it'll just be angled down in a flat piece. And then we'll basically angle it out a little bit and make a flange over here so that catches it. I think that sounds good. So let's see what happens. So this should be 10 millimeters based on our grid. So we're going to do a line here. And we're going to grab our line there. That's good. And then we're going to come down. If this is 5, so we'll come down like maybe to there. I'm totally eyeballing this. There's actually not a whole lot of... So we're going to come to here. And then we're going to actually come out to like here. And then basically do something like that. Okay. Okay, so first thing is I'm going to push-pull this, and I'm just going to put 100 so it gets rid of it. Then I need to turn my sketch back on. And what I'd like to do with this is bring it over here like that. Ah, good. And then the only thing is I think maybe I'll pull this back so it's flush, right? Actually, that's kind of a cool look with that angle there. No, I don't. Let's actually bring it flush, right? And then maybe what I'll do is I'll sketch a shape. Yeah, let's do this. I have an idea. Let's basically make it like more of a hook here. So let's sketch on this side. And I think what I'd like to do is... What? Nope. Let's try this again. I did something wrong. Cool. All right, so that's good. So now I have this face that I can press pull. Whoops, wrong way. There we go. Now we're talking. Okay, that's cool. All right, so now we've got ourselves a little hook. And I think what I'd like to do, let's shut the sketch off here. Let's maybe fillet the edges so we have a nice curve on the sides. Let's see what that looks like. There we go. Cool, I dig it. And then maybe we'll just fillet this edge, and this edge, and this edge, and that edge. Very cool. I love it. So let's now move this over this way. We'll rotate it 90. Let's bring it down a little more. Good. And basically have this intersect with that. Now that is an issue. However, I do... That's an issue. See how it's sticking into my object there? Let's actually bring it down. Perfect. Again, it looks like an elephant. So silly. All right, I'm going to have to deal with this, but I think I know how we can deal with this. So what we're going to have to do here... So there is like a subtract... Is it under assemble? No. There is a way to combine, right? So if we say... No, that's not what we want. That's not what we want. Let's see. What I can do is I can draw a sketch of an arc here. And then just mute my phone really quickly. Let's see. All right, mute my phone. I think what I could probably do is maybe like draw a shape that follows the contour of this, and I could maybe draw it on the top and just push it down and erase that there. Probably a better way to do that, but let's go with it. I think that's going to be the best bet. So we're basically going to use a 3-point arc and basically do this and do this and do this, right? And then what we'll do is I need to complete this. So what I'm going to do is just use the line tool and do this, right? And then I can finish the sketch and I can pull this downward and it should cleanly cut out my shape. Now, there's a little of it sticking through for some reason. Something must be a little off, but I think that's pretty good. And then I think what I'm going to do is save this. I'm going to call this hook. And then I'm going to combine these two bodies together. So we'll basically use the combine. So target body is going to be this. This is going to be here. Nope. This one here. I don't know what body that is. All right, so now these are... What is this? Oh, that's my knob, which is over there. Okay. I think we're done. Let's just move this a little closer. Whoop, that's not what I want to do. Cool. I don't know about you, but I think that was a success. Again, there's probably things I could have done better, but that's okay. You know, this was a challenge for me. Making the hinge was a challenge. I did not know how that was going to go, and I am really proud of that. I probably could have made the dimensions of it a little bit bigger, but, you know, whatever. I think we're going to call this a finished project. I did not think I was going to be able to get that done today, and I am pretty psyched about it. So thanks for hanging with me today when I was building this headphone hook. You know, I'm no expert. I'm just doing my best with the skills that I have, a little bit of creativity and some perseverance. Always going to run into problems, but that's the fun of this, is figuring it out. And I feel pretty good about this. I feel really, really accomplished. And yeah, I really appreciate you hanging in with me. And I'm going to be doing some more Fusion 360 videos in the future. Definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel. We release tons of free content every day. And check out thedae.com to sign up for private lessons and online classes. We got a lot of great stuff to offer. So that's going to be it, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks so much for tuning in.